It is a first down. Pirates.
You can paint this one purple. What an incredible win by the ECU Pirates.
Welcome into Blackbeard's Alley, a late night edition here a little after 11 o'clock. But joining me from the West Coast, former East Carolina linebacker and guy that still follows the program very closely. And we're recapping the Pirates' 31-27 thriller of a victory on Saturday night over the Memphis Tigers. Mark Libiano. Mark, we appreciate your time.
No problem, buddy. Happy to be here. Excited to talk about ECU football with wins.
Yeah, what a night it was. It was largely the game that many folks thought it would be, as far as a game that came down to the wire, back and forth throughout. The Pirates were, of course, something like a 2.5 or 3.5 point favorite going in, and it was. On our preview show, we caught up with Rini and Golia from ESPN, and Rini and I just talked about looking at the stat sheet and how even of a matchup it appeared to be, and barring a very lopsided turnover battle, we really felt it would come down to the wire, and it certainly did, to say the least. And what were your initial thoughts? And we'll dive into it a little deeper here.
Just first off, just happy for the kids, competing and getting that win. It's really good for the kids and the program, the coaches and everyone else that belongs to it. When you look at the numbers, I think last week we were looking at the offenses versus the defense, and it just matched up, right? Where it was like, this is going to be a fun game. It's going to go back and forth, and I think, what was it, 2022 when it went into overtime? And
2022, Holton Ayler's senior year, that you had that 3 or 4 overtime game that was just unbelievable. And we had another instant classic on Saturday night, and that's three straight now that have been instant classics with Memphis.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's always very competitive football with Memphis when we go there or they come here. So, you just look at that and just say, hey, these kids better play and get ready for the opportunity to win. And it came down to it, and it was neat, to see those kids that put a lot into the program actually, get to where they got to on Saturday night. And everyone's happy for them. So.
Yep. So diving into things here, coming into the game, one of the things that jumped out about Memphis was how efficient they had been in the red zone. The Tigers were 40 out of 41, with 33 of those 40 scores having been touchdowns. And ECU, on the other hand, had been so efficient on third down, offensively and defensively. And those areas really, like you might expect in a game of this magnitude, were very critical on Saturday night. But after neither team did much of anything on their first possession, picked up maybe 20 or 25 yards, ECU on its second possession went 12 plays, 91 yards, a little over 4 minutes. And that really kind of set the tone for the game.
Definitely. 91 yards, long drive, good drive. They held the ball and ran the ball, passed the ball, did everything they needed to, which set up to the next sequence of plays. Memphis, 10 plays, 75-yard touchdown in the second quarter.
Yep. The Tigers, like you mentioned, they really kind of had our number a bit there in the second quarter. And after that 12-play, 91-yard drive, ECU went 3 plays, 2 yards. 8 plays, 24 yards. But then the Pirates did have that 10-play, 44-yard drive. They were forced to settle for a Nick Mazzy field goal, but you can't say enough about Nick. He is now something like 12 out of 14 on the season, and his last 4 attempts have been good, from 46, 40, 50, and now 49.
I thought that second quarter field goal that you're speaking about it was good, just to get the field goal, the kicker out there and get a field goal in there. Kind of gets the confidence going in case we needed them later on in the second half. And good thing, at the end of the day, we'll jump to that later on. But that touchdown. But I thought that field goal was a good thing. Get him warmed up and see what he was going to do for the rest of the night. So I was happy with that field goal.
As good as our defense had been up to this point, you really felt like even with Brandon Lewis, the very talented Memphis quarterback, even with his injury and him not being 100%, that Memphis was likely the most explosive offense we had faced to date, and that the Pirates were going to have to score close to 30 points to win the game, which was the case. Memphis ran the ball better than anyone has against the Pirates. BYU, I think, had about 175, 180 yards. Yes, Army, I think technically they ran for 1 more yard, but they had 20 more attempts than Memphis. The Tigers finished with 240 yards. 84 of those came on 1 run by Sutton Smith. He looked like Keaton Mitchell.
Yeah, he turned that corner and he was off to the races. It looked like the one linebacker scraping down got there a little too late. We don't get to see the coach's tape to see what kind of edges were set, but he was gone. He turned that corner. He was gone. So I thought Memphis's total offense was really balanced. So good for them.
Yeah, it was. And taking a look at the numbers here, each team had 24 first downs. Memphis finished with 457 yards, ECU 454. The Pirates held the edge in the passing game, 332 to 217. But you see there, Brendan Lewis, 33 of 44, but no completion longer than 19 yards. So those screens, the short and intermediate passing game was where Memphis was making their hay through the air. And there was 1 or 2 deep balls where the Pirates, were a bit fortunate. I think of a critical drop that Memphis had early in the second half. I think it was their opening possession, and then we proceed to go down the field and take a lead. And then there was also a deep ball that was just off the fingertips of the Tigers receiver going toward the boneyard. But sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. And all in all, ideally, I know we sacked him, I think, 2 or 3 times, but for the majority of the night, especially in the first half, but he had way too long to throw the football a lot of times.
Yeah, no, I think that was part of the game plan to try to get him to stay in the pocket, and see if we can get our pass rush there. Was hopeful there was a few more blitzes there, but he's a good quarterback and he made some throws. I think that one, I think it was 3rd and 20, and he picked up 19. So he's a pretty good quarterback. I'm just glad that the coaches made sure to keep him in check, and it was good. So I think they're well balanced, and you could see it in the stats. I think that 84-yarder kind of inflated that 240 yards rushing. It didn't seem like they had that many yards.
Yeah, you're right. And then Greg DeRosier, the other very good back, veteran back that they have, those 240 yards, I think out of those 240, between the 84-yarder, and then DeRosier had maybe a couple that totaled about 50 or 60. So over half of that 240 came on 3 or 4 runs.
Yeah, so, Sutton Smith, 7 carries for 109 yards, and then the Lewis, he had 12 for 61. That's and then who's this? The junior kid, number 13, he had 9 for 53, but it didn't seem like it was a pounding. So, yeah, it is what it is. We had 100 more yards in passing compared to their rushing. So, yeah.
In that ball control passing game, and then also the way they ran the football, I did not notice this on the scoreboard during the game, but was not shocked to see that Memphis held a 35 minutes and 33 second to 24 minutes and 27 seconds edge in time of possession.
I look back at that. That was one of the stats I looked back at, and I kind of laughed. With the balance of yardage and play, I think the plays were 72, 73 each. You always think, like, hey, you got to control the clock and win the game. But, I think once we get in gear, that hurry up and what is it called? Tempo offense. I think we do a pretty good job of managing it. Went down to basically the last possession, and the Pirates managed it well. So it doesn't matter how many minutes you have on the clock or they have on the clock. Matters about the points at the end. So good for us.
Yeah, coming into the game, ECU was converting a little over 50% of the third downs. The Pirates exactly 50% on the night, 6 out of 12. Memphis, on the other hand, was just 4 out of 16 on third down, 25%. And ECU opponents had been just 31% coming in. And then obviously they did even better than that against the Tigers. Memphis had been converting fourth downs at a very high rate, and they did once again 3 out of 4. But that one that they failed to convert was a huge one going toward the Murphy Center. They had 4th and 1, and the Pirates stoned them there.
Great play, right? Just exactly what those kids needed to do, and time to step up. So, super happy for them. I was just looking. Sorry, Bubba. I was looking at their third down conversions for the year, and they were at looks like almost 41%. While ours is at 32%. Nope, sorry. Yep. Value. Sorry, I'm just looking at some statistics online or whatever. But I thought pretty good job. Both teams did well managing both, but the that fourth down, it's a big deal. Make the stop and turn around. You're on offense, right?
I mentioned ECU needing to make its hay in the passing game. The Pirates throwing for over 330 yards. ECU was held to one of its lowest rushing totals of the season. And I think, clearly NC State was far and away the lowest, just 30 yards against the Wolfpack. We'd love to have the opportunity to play that one again. But in the game against BYU, I think it was around 120 yards. And then there was another game this game, I think it was like 122, 125, somewhere in there. The Pirates ran it well enough to keep them honest, but the passing game needed to pick up the slack, and it did just that. And as a result, you saw we were able to convert both of our trips into the red zone. We did make some big plays. What a catch by Brock Spalding. A one-handed catch is about as good of a catch as we've seen in quite some time. And it reminded me a lot of the catches Zay Jones made against Virginia Tech when we beat the Hokies back in 2015.
When Spalding caught that ball, I was like, "There's no way he's gonna grab this ball." I'm like, "We're winning this right here, this play." I was like, either he catches it and he scores, or it's a pass interference. And I just, it's amazing to see that play. And then you go to fast forward to the last touchdown, and it's same thing, man. Great. The kids did what they needed to do, and they stepped up. So I thought the receivers did well all game compared to the week before. I thought the week before they were a little sketchy. There was a few drops here and there, but good for our receivers. And it seems like Yannick's out for, I don't know, a week or two or whatever, but it's great to see some of the other kids step up. And I think I watched Coach talk about it in his press conference, but that's a team coming together and everyone's pitching in. So good for them.
Yeah, no doubt. Yannick Smith, as you mentioned, getting injured on that second possession of the game when he made an excellent catch on a perfectly thrown deep ball by Katin Houser down the right sideline toward the Murphy Center. And I think he actually hobbled off on that following play and unfortunately never returned. But Brock Spalding stepped up. He had his biggest game in quite some time after having such a strong start to the season. Brock now 35 catches for nearly 500 yards and a couple touchdowns. Anthony Smith had a good game. Yannick, in that limited action, had 50 yards. And then the tight ends got involved, especially Desirio Riles. He really had some key catches. And London Montgomery had either just under or just over, depending on where you look. I think I saw 98 yards one place and 103 yards another. But I mentioned not the team total that the Pirates had of late, but a solid night for sure for London Montgomery. And you got to remember that you had 2 or 3 sacks that took away from that team total. So instead of about 125, it was really more like 150.
So Bubba, for London running, did you see anything kind of different this game versus the last couple games? I mean, I'm asking the question because it seems like he's popping and like he's hitting the holes with like a faster pace than he was in the beginning of the year. So I'm not sure if that's the confidence or
I agree. I do think here recently that he does seem to be, I guess, for lack of a better way of putting it, running with more conviction.
Yeah.
And you think one of those touchdowns. So you had starting the second half after the Pirates got that stop of the Tigers, who got the ball coming out following halftime. You had a 7-play, 74-yard drive, 2 minutes and 2 seconds, and then 6 plays, 75 yards in a minute 50. And one of those drives, I can't recall which. I think it was perhaps the second. You had the London Montgomery, I think it's a 23-yard touchdown run off the right side, where he exhibited exactly what you were referencing.
Yeah, I mean, he was running fast and strong. Yep, it was the third quarter, end of the third quarter, 23-yard run. But he was running.
Okay, so yeah, it was that. It must have been that third drive or second drive and second touchdown of the second half.
Yeah. So you could just see his speed. Is he how big is he, Bubba? Is he a larger back or what?
I'll have to double check. I think he's in that
Nice size.
6 feet to 6'1" range, and maybe 205 or 10 pounds.
Yeah, you can see his explosive speed, and he was using some power against Memphis. So good for him, man. And that's good. So you got to have a complimentary football, running the ball and passing the ball. And I thought we did well. I thought he took care of a lot of good things. So.
But speaking of momentum, speaking of it taking everybody, which is one of Blake Harrell's sayings, we've heard it throughout the season, and we heard it in today's press conference going into the UTSA week. It takes all of us. And how about late in that third quarter, Mark? You had the ECU students. They had really been challenged by Pirate fans who had been staying at games throughout the season. And in there, a lot of those games had been lopsided, such as that previous week homecoming game against Charlotte, where you had the 28-0 lead early in the second quarter. But the students stayed. And to their credit, they really made a difference. One of the things that Blake Harrell and also Brett Oliverio from Sup Dogs did. Brett Oliverio and Sup Dogs had a $1,000 giveaway to one of those students that stayed. And then also Coach Harrell made it where everyone that stayed could get a voucher for a free beer, or if you weren't 21, a free soft drink at Sup Dogs. So very generous and smart there by Coach Harrell.
Definitely, man. That's fun, and it's you got to engage with the students. And I just, I was telling you beforehand, watching the first quarter with the crowd, it was loud and it was coming through the TV. And then when these guys did this, you could just hear the excitement come through the TV, and you heard it, man. I literally thought they were piping in noise, because you can hear it that well through the TV. So awesome for the kids, man. I just hope that, these kids can see some more football next year like that, because, you mentioned a few of the games were kind of blowouts. It's hard to get mad at them when it's 28-0 in the first quarter. But they stayed and they took care of business, and, that's the ECU football that we know.
Yeah, exactly. Again, hats off to Blake Harrell and also Brett Oliverio, the owner of Sup Dogs. And, that business, continues to just do so much for the program in so many ways. I remember when we formed Team Boneyard, they jumped on board right away, and, they ran numerous promotions, and they just continue to support the program and done everything they can do to be part of the team behind the teams. And, we can't thank them enough. But, looking at this game, talking about other people stepping up that were actually on the field making the plays. How about Payton Mangrum? We mentioned Yannick Smith going down with that injury on the second possession for the Pirates, and then the South Carolina transfer, who had, I think, caught 6 or 7 passes at least prior to the game. But he stepped up, and he was also returning punts. You could tell he was very confident back there, returning kicks or punts rather. And then that catch that he made that proved to be the game winner, it was something that you could tell that it had been rep time and again in practice in that 2-minute situation.
So when I saw the catch and I saw him returning punts and doing what he was doing, he looked like he was supposed to be there. And that's what depth in your team is. And just so happy happy for him and happy for the team. But getting the backstory of how long he was at South Carolina and what he did when he came to ECU all year put himself in that position, which helped our team, and we should be very thankful for that. Is phenomenal. I mean, I still can't figure out how he actually caught it. So it goes from Brock Spalding's catch in the beginning of the game to the bookend of his catch for the touchdown, the winning score. It's just phenomenal, both catches. But the last one, when he caught that, and they went to the review, I was like, why are they going to the review? And you can see his hands still holding the ball. And I'm like, just phenomenal athletic play, and just happy for the kids, so.
Yeah. We ran those vertical routes, and like you mentioned, excellent job by Katin putting the ball where his guy can make a play, and Payton flipped his hips and made a heck of a catch. It's one of those that almost seemed like it's such a critical juncture, obviously, that it almost seemed, watching it live, that it was in slow motion. It was as it was unfolding, and just a magical moment. And you heard that young man speaking to the media today, and doing a lot of interviews that he hasn't done in his career. He's a low key and pretty shy and reserved guy by his own admission, but you could tell he was humbled by the opportunity to make such a critical play, and seems like a first class kid.
Yeah, I mean, he act like you've been there, and that kid acted like he's been there, made the catch, and everything. You could tell he's practicing hard in practice, because you're not making plays like that when you're getting thrown into the wolves. So good for him. Congratulations, and what a wonderful situation for him. Happy he's here. You know, we take all. We're Pirates, right? Doesn't matter how many years you played somewhere else. You play 1 year for us, you're a Pirate.
A moment ago, Mark, you referenced on the replays and how frustrating that can be at times. So along those lines of officiating, I didn't want to lead with it, but I think we would be I don't know, neglecting our job here on the show if we didn't at least mention it. And in the game, the Pirates were flagged 8 times for 72 yards. That was the most penalties they had since way back in September on the 20th against BYU. That was an area that had really been cleaned up. And BYU. Memphis, on the other hand, Memphis was not whistled for a penalty until very late in the third quarter. And from that point on, you had 5 for 55 yards. So what were your thoughts on the officiating?
So I got 2 issues. I got the one that I preach to my kids now, and then I got watching the ECU game. It's a little bit more dear to my heart. I didn't understand the first half, the officiating. I mean, Spalding, he literally got mugged a few times, and it was clear. I thought there was a few holdings on Memphis. I thought there was a holding or two. I think there was 2 guys holding when that kid ran to 84 yards. But some of that stuff, they're going to get it, and they're not going to get it. I just hoped it wasn't the whole entire game, and I think they kind of evened out in the second half. We won it, and you can whine all you want, but it's part of football. We've been in it. When we played the SEC teams, you've seen the flags come out in the third quarter. So it's hard. It's really hard when you don't win, but I think the guys, all the kids and the coaches overcame it. I tell my kids, this is my second point, one plays water polo and the other one plays soccer. And the narrative is they're just as bad for you as they are for the other team. I know it doesn't feel that way at some times, but usually they are. The one issue that was kind of being highlighted in this game, it didn't seem like consistent. If you call one call, in basketball is easier to kind of do the analogy, but if you're calling it one way, just be consistent and call it that way for both teams. And I didn't think in the first half they were, and then I think in the second half there's a few times where they just had to. So it is what it is. You got to play the football game and outscore, the other team and the refs. So figure it out.
Yeah, I agree. In the first half, you had a roughing the passer and personal foul called on Raheem Craig, and then a very similar play. Raheem Craig's hit was up high, but in my opinion, I don't necessarily think it should have been flagged. But then you had some Memphis player, and it came in low on Katin Houser.
Yeah,
and
saw that.
But I'm sure you remember that one, and it was not flagged.
Definitely saw it all. But I mean, Bubba, you've been watching ECU football for just as long as I have, and that wasn't as atrocious as some of the games that we played in. So chalk it up. We got to win. Make sure the kids. I'm just happy the kids kept their cool. Right? They didn't do silly flags. So you can't control it. Move on. You got to win. Keep winning, and the rest will take care of itself.
A few more things before we move on from this game, and very quickly take a look ahead as well as what happened around the American. We have to talk about Mike Wright, the way he was utilized. We haven't up to this point, but he's worn many hats already this season. He really is our Renaissance man, so to speak.
Which number is he?
Mike Wright was number 0.
0, 11, offense, defense.
Yeah, exactly.
Special teams. I did not realize. I was like, wow, that was a great punt, right? The first punt, I didn't really think about it and I wasn't paying attention. And then the second punt, I was like, wait. who's punting? And I was like, holy cow. So, dude, the kid can do a ton of things, and it's so neat. And the character of this team is being built by guys like him, the gentleman that caught the winning touchdown, things like that are making this team special. That Mike Wright is just freakish, athletic, and fun to watch. Interception at the end. I know everyone tells you to bat it down, but you know what? If the ball is in your hands, it's not in anyone else's hands. So I'll fully take the interception. With the batting down, you never know what happens with the tipping, and you've seen that before. And someone tries to bat it down and they don't get high enough and they tip it, and next thing you know, Cincinnati scores.
Yeah, and
we've been there before, right?
Yeah, the Hale Perryman play with UCF and senior night in 2014 that unfortunately ruined Shane Card and Justin Hardy and other Pirates senior night.
Yep.
But man, that was that's a game I wish I could forget. But
so that's one of my things is I don't like that preaching when coaches preach it, just knock it down and spike it. I like if you can control the game. Most important issue in ball sports is ball control. So if you can intercept it, it's ball control. Go down to the knee, game's over. There's no, so my thing is, I mean, the guy ran for a touchdown, the guy threw for a touchdown, the guy's punting, the guy's playing defense, he's returning kicks. Just a blast to watch, man. It's just, it leads to what we're going to cover in a little bit. You got 2 more games. What are you going to do next 2 games, right?
Yep. Even though it's not a high volume of plays, the Pirates have gotten their money and then some with Mike Wright. Because when he's been in there, he has made a significant impact. And then that's not even talking about the intangibles he brings from a leadership standpoint. And everything he offers the locker room, and he flew the team plane home from Philadelphia. I mean, I've never heard of that.
That's awesome. Great kid. I mean, this is what you need to keep the program rolling. It builds character within some of the younger kids. It's good for them to understand what's going on. Both of those kids that made major plays in this game are fifth year, sixth year kids that just keep grinding it out, and great football players. And when their time is called, they're doing it. So good for them, man.
But I was like you when Mike Wright came out on that first possession when our drive stalled about the 50-yard line. I looked at my dad. I said, look, Mike Wright's on the field. And I really thought we may fake it. And then when he punted it, and like you said, it was about a 40-yard punt that pinned the Tigers at their 10-yard line. And then
he did it rugby style, right?
Right. And then, go ahead.
That's what caught my eye. I was like, well, wait. I thought we were done with this rugby stuff. Like, well, who was that? And then I realized it was him. I was like, oh, what? So.
But then the second one, I think we were something like, I don't know, about our own 25-yard line. That one made me a little nervous. I said, please just get this thing out of there, Mike. and he rolled to his right, and he did, and he got a heck of a roll. He netted 53 yards. So hats off to Blake Harrell once again, being aggressive, thinking outside the box, and not only him, the staff as a whole. It's not just Blake, but the way they are willing to leave no stone unturned to give ourselves a competitive advantage and catch someone off guard. As much as Memphis had seen Mike Wright do, I would be pretty surprised if they had that kind of on their radar.
No, I don't. And no one. You covered the program and you had no clue. I was looking at. I was like, well, what just happened? And like I said, the only reason why I saw is because of that style of punt compared to the other guys. And I was like, this is phenomenal. What a great way for the coaches to actually implement and give your team another little weapon later on down the line, Bubba,
yep.
What do they say? Offense, there's three facets of football, right? And now it's turned into four. Your offense, defense, special teams, and your coaching. And, Blake's doing a hell of a job figuring these things out and inserting kids in there that make a difference. So, great.
Yep. And John White said just that on YouTube. Appreciate folks chiming in. Let us hear from you. We'll be with you for another 10 to 15 minutes probably. But John White said having him punt keeps the defense on its toes, and he does it well. And then also Robert Dedrick said, when asked by Harrell, Mike Wright said, yes, I've kicked before. And then he admitted today when he spoke with the media that was a lie, that he just wanted an opportunity to get on the field in that role. It reminds me of the LSU pitcher who told Paul Maneri, the head coach at the time there with the Tigers, that they were playing in the SEC tournament down in Hoover. And I know Wool will laugh about this. We talked about it last season. And when I guess it was perhaps when Jake Hunter was batting for the Pirates. But anyway, that young man for LSU told Paul Maneri that he hit bombs when he was playing in high school, and then at the post-game press conference, he said he never swung the bat in high school. He said, yeah. He said I hit BP a few times, but I never hit in a game.
I didn't tell you it wasn't in the game, right?
Yeah.
So,
and then Paul Maneri just kind of shrugged his shoulders. He's like, and was laughing. He said, you lied to me.
Yeah, well, if he can kick like that, it's just another weapon, just to keep the the defense honest, right? Like I was confused on what they were going to do Memphis on the second punt because if you drop back, he just, with his speed, you get your first down. So great opportunity for the coaching staff to figure things out, man. Good for them.
Circling back to something we were talking about a half an hour ago now, but John White, appreciate him providing this information regarding London Montgomery. My guess was about 6 feet, 205 pounds. ESPN has him listed at 5'11", 200.
Nice size back. I thought it looks a little bit bigger. He's fast, so fun to watch.
One final thought about the Memphis game, and that is on that final possession. And I would have expected nothing less, given Blake Harrell's track record and the way he's called things through the first now 16 games of his ECU tenure as head coach. And that is the way we were so aggressive. We got that first down, had the ball something like the Memphis 35-yard line, still plenty of time left on the clock. I think back to the past where under the previous regime where we played things pretty close to the vest. And in that situation, we did not have a good kicking game whatsoever, a very shaky kicking game, and we were still playing it conservatively. In this case, we did. We have a very solid kicking game, but we were still aggressive, didn't try to settle for a long field goal to tie. Instead, we took a shot, and we benefited from it.
Yeah, what was it? A minute to go, and I think was it a first down or a second down? But
I believe it was a second down play.
It's you got a shot or two. Having that kicker, when I talked about him making that one in the second quarter, which is really good because it's almost like a check of where he is, right? So confidence is there. You got to take a chance, and you know what? Perfect time, perfect throw, great catch. What was that? Was that 30-some yards? Were we in the red zone there or not? No.
No, it was right around a 35-yard play.
It was the timing couldn't be better, and it was good to see the confidence of our quarterback. I think we went this entire podcast, Bubba, and we really didn't even mention how well the quarterback played.
Yeah, we went over his numbers, but didn't really dive into it. But yeah, Katin Houser had another excellent night. He was, as a result, part of the American Conference Honor Roll. As he should have been. But Blake Harrell said I'm a little biased, but I thought he should have been Player of the Week offensively. But the Manning All-Stars weekly awards, he was one of 8
awesome.
that received that recognition.
Yeah, it's really a good thing when you're taking your quarterback that's playing very well, very confident, for granted. Very nice to have, and I think that's part of the success that we're having this year, and it's very good. So apologies for not highlighting that as much. It was funny. Someone just wrote a dime to Spalding. I think most of his passes, man, are excuse me, are big time throws. You don't see any ducks coming out, or once in a while he'll get the underthrow or overthrow, and that's fine. That's just being young, but great arm, great confidence. And Bubba, I get to claim him. He's an Anaheim kid, right?
Yeah, and then he also had the tie to Vegas.
What, he went to Vegas, or
I'm trying to remember if I think it was St. John's Bosco.
Oh, is that where he went out of?
I believe so. And then, like you mentioned, to Michigan State, and then of course to us. But
but the credit is how well he's been playing, how well he played last year when he got his opportunity, and how us taking him for granted this year. And you hear the coaches speak about, how well kids performing and, the confidence, but you can really see that with our quarterback. And it's just a blessing to have that. I just think, having 5-6 receivers who catch the ball all day long too helps out. So total package. And I just want to bring up, we hit the running backs, we hit the quarterbacks, and hit the receivers, just how well that offensive line is kind of coming along. I know me, you, and Matt have a text every once in a while, and we talk about JDP being stubborn about running the ball, but you could just see how well the offensive line is come along from the beginning of the year to what they're doing now with setting up the game.
Yeah, really have. Like I mentioned, that NC State game was the only game where we didn't run for at least, I think it's 119 yards. That 119 was against BYU. We had 122 against Memphis, and definitely not what we would have liked to have done on the ground, but it was good enough to help the O-line out and put some guesswork into it. And in Memphis, they're definitely one of the, even though they've given up some things at times, they're definitely one of the better defenses we had faced. I think something like 21 points per game, which is very, very solid. They had struggled some in the first halves, and to East Carolina's credit, we found a way to produce 21 points, 3 drives of 70-plus yards, I think maybe 75-plus yards there in the second half. The first 2 drives of the second half, and then obviously the game winner.
Bubba, I'm looking back at the ECU offense, rushing plays percentage versus passing plays percentage. Rushing,
Right.
54.4%, passing 45.6%.
Yeah, it seems like in the game, this is going off memory here, I think the total plays run, I think it was 77 or 78 plays for Memphis, and then 72 or 73 plays for ECU, and for the Pirates, it was, I think, 34 pass attempts for Katin Houser. But I know earlier off the air, Mark, we talked about the tarps off movement. Hats off to Blake Harrell, because I don't think we mentioned this on air. At the team dinner on Monday night, he had those 15, 20 guys there at the team dinner. They came storming into Harvey Hall at the Murphy Center, tarps off, as you would expect. And once again, Blake Harrell gets it, and hats off to him and the program for involving everyone and really, getting people involved and making them feel important.
So I think did we talk about it, or I send you the text, or we talked about it beforehand? But
I think we just talked about it backstage before we went live.
Having a coach understanding the room per se on what's going on with the whole program is huge. He understands the kids need to be there. We need those kids in the stands. Having his football team interact with those kids at team dinner. I want to talk about the team dinner first. But having those kids come and enjoy the moment with the student body and have the athletes interact. And I saw the video, like, I think they were more happy at dinner than they were when the kids were doing it in the stands. So good for them, man, and good for the coaches to understand the room and how to get the student body involved and get everyone involved. And it's just a pleasant situation to see and hear your coach every week talk about how thankful he is for the administration, the students, the fans coming back. I mean, it's just, fun, man. And I think he's making fun. And I think why those kids like playing for him is because of this reason. It builds character in the program. It makes it fun. You're excited to go play. You screw up, you get back out there and do what you need to do.
Mark, what were your thoughts on the students storming the field there when the Pirates got that pick by Mike Wright to clinch it?
I don't know how to say it, but we haven't had that much to do, and I think I'm fine with it. I think it's fun, but you stormed it. We had a good game. I think the relevance of playing a good team and actually getting through it, and these kids that have been through a lot on the team. It's just dramatic losing your coach. I think it's hard to get mad at the kids for getting excited because you asked them to get excited. They stayed through the whole game. They had it. And I think we haven't had that in a while, maybe 10 years. But I think we need to make sure that whole boneyard is packed, because I've seen it packed a lot more. And I'm okay with it. It's fun every once in a while. But, we should make a habit of winning at home so these kids get to see some really good football. So I don't know what to say more than that. Besides, you're going to have some people say one thing versus the other, but good for the kids, man. Each year, each kind of decade they need to carve out their own. Just like we carved out ours in the 90s. When these kids were running and with Shane Carden and the rest of the crew, they carved out their niche. So, they want to storm it.
Yeah, I think it was a necessary moment. You can't have it both ways. I mean, you want them to show that emotion the entire game and stay. And Coach Harrell and we talked about everything there as far as the $1,000 giveaway and the drink vouchers and so forth from Sup Dogs that were funded by Coach Harrell, and very well done there. Hats off to the administration on doing what they did to increase attendance with the $12 tickets in the upper deck and also $25 bleacher seats in the lower bowl. And it really all came together. And unfortunately, it was senior day where you cannot build on this momentum at the next home game and potentially get a crowd in the mid 40s or something. But I think Blake Harrell would have involved those students anyway. But considering and there were no more home games, I think it was all the more important to have that moment with those guys at the team dinner and have that on social media where we can keep the momentum rolling into, who knows, you may have the opportunity to host a championship game, but you could have a regional bowl game, whether it's in Conway or even traveling 8 to 10 hours down to Florida, to Orlando, Tampa, or whatnot, and you certainly want to do everything you can to get students and otherwise to make that trip.
Yeah,
but,
no, and you got 2 more games to play. You need everyone excited, and at the end of the day, that this is your backbone for the future. So keep having fun, keep winning, right, Bubba?
Yeah, exactly. Let's transition into what took place in the American. You had Navy 41, number 24, USF 38. A lot of folks expected that to be a shootout, myself included, and it clearly was. 79 total points scored, nearly 1,100 yards of offense. Byron Brown, the North Carolina Research Triangle product, threw for 327, ran for 136, accounted for 4 total touchdowns, 463 yards of offense. Remarkable performance from him, but the Bulls came up 3 points shy there in Annapolis. UTSA came to Charlotte, won 28-7, outgained the 49ers 521 to 197. They did just lead 14-0 after 3 quarters, which was surprising given the total yardage. But I think they had a couple of turnovers that had held them back. Tulsa 31, Oregon State 14. There in Tulsa. Tulsa ran for nearly 300 yards. North Texas defeated UAB of something like 53-24. North Texas forced 4 Blazer turnovers. So despite UAB having almost 500 yards of offense against a Mean Green defense that can definitely be had, they lost by nearly 30 points. And then you had Tulane. They beat FAU 35-24 in New Orleans. FAU rolled up over 470 yards, though, and threw for 375. So keep that in mind as the Pirates will conclude the regular season down in Boca against the Owls. So there you have what transpired around the American. Of course, Navy is now 6-1. You have ECU at 5-1, and then Tulane's right there in North Texas. It's really right now it's looking like a 4-team race. What are your thoughts on the conference standings?
I was a little surprised Navy actually won that game against South Florida. Quite frankly, I thought South Florida would take care of it. So good for Navy. Navy's the academies. They're just going to keep rolling, man. You got to beat them. You really got to beat them. So the Charlotte UTS game, didn't think anything of it. Tulsa played Oregon State. North Texas, UAB is starting to come along, right? And then the Florida Atlantic Tulane, that score sort of surprised me and didn't, because everyone's talking about FAU starting to come along. So we got two nice games, right? We got to finish off the season well so they can get a 9-3 season, or is it going to be 9-3 or 7-5? So I'd like to see the 9-3. It'd be very good for the program in itself and its direction that it needs to go. But I think there's some good football left. It's hard to get on a plane and fly to Dallas and bring your A game, but you need to be mentally sharp and play football. They got 2 good games to play, so let's take care of business. 2 business trips, they call them, right? So, Bubba, you there? Well, it looks like Bubba lost some internet connection, so hopefully we'll get him back here in a minute or two.
And we're back. Nothing like losing connection on a live show, right?
No, a lot of dead air, buddy. A lot of dead air. And I left you out to hang, too. So,
yep.
Bubba,
I lost you, and then
that's okay.
I was saying I lost you, and then I got booted myself.
Yeah, no problem. I was just talking about the last two games, and it'd be nice to get both of those wins. They're both travel and business trips, and it'd be a great opportunity for ECU to get those 2 wins. And they got to bring their A game, bring their mental game, and make sure they don't do anything reckless or silly. So, great opportunity for these kids to have a great year.
Yep. The Pirates have handled adversity well on the whole this year, whether it's game to game or within games. they've done a tremendous job responding. You saw how they handled that situation the other night, and Coach Harrell called a lot of attention to that in his weekly press conference. That many teams would have packed it in there when you fumble deep in your own territory, especially against a team that's so efficient in the red zone with such a potent offense. But the Pirates came out even after Memphis picked up that first down and had 1st and 10 at the Pirate 12. We got the stop we needed. We forced a field goal and then proceed to produce that game-winning drive. And now the question is, let's see how we handle such an emotional high going on the road to such a challenging place to win like the Alamo Dome, where they've won 20, however. And
25 or something like that.
Yeah, Blake said it's something like 25-0 in conference play going back to their Conference USA days. But so obviously they've never lost an American Conference game there in San Antonio. Wow. Something like 23-24-0.
Wow, that's we get challenges.
That's remarkable.
Yeah, it is, and that's kind of some of the little things that pop up through the American Conference. Some of these teams are doing, which is great. Just it's another challenge, and life is not easy being a Pirate, but you got to go out there and do what you need to do.
Right. Well, Mark, any big picture thoughts before I promote a few things and we get out of here?
No, just keep playing. Just keep winning, man. It's nice to see. It's nice to see the players, great kids. Anytime you see them on TV or interviews, they all got smiles. They're all good kids. And we didn't even talk about the defense, Bubba. We barely talked about it. But just overall for the whole program direction, I'm just glad we're getting wins and playing together. Excuse me. You could see this team likes each other and plays hard for each other, and that's how you have success. Just happy the coaches are getting these kids to where they need to go, and you could see the opportunity. Hopefully that translates into more players, coming out of high school, getting some of these transfers for the NIL and keeping it rolling. So happy for the program, happy for the coaches, happy for the administration and the fans in general.
Yeah, what a job by Blake Harrell, Josh Aldridge, and this defensive staff. The Pirates are allowing just over 18 points per game coming into the year. We were wondering if we could hold folks to less than 30 points per game, and here we are, one of the better defenses in ECU history. You think back.
Tackle for losses are crazy. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's 7-8 each game is 7-8 tackles for losses, and they're well-founded tackles 2-3 yards behind the line of scrimmage at the time where you need those tackle for losses. Coming up in 3rd and 3, tackle for loss and turns it into 4th and 5 and changes the momentum. So just fun to watch.
One thing I realized I'd failed to mention. Obviously, you had Zion Wilson, Eastern North Carolina native.
Beast.
Yeah. Huh?
He's a beast, man.
Yeah, no doubt. He's a beast. And like I mentioned, he's an Eastern North Carolina kid and walk on. I think I'm trying to remember. He's related to CJ Wilson.
And that's what I was talking to you about. These kids, it's very happy for them to go through. They had some success, went down, and now they're back coming. And it's great for all these kids that are, moving on and having a great time and being proud of what they are. It's just fun to watch all of them, man. So,
and you could tell it meant something to that kid the other night. Zion Wilson at the post game presser just saying it's a dream come true to wear the purple and gold, and he grew up going to the games, DJ play, and now to make such a huge impact as he's made this season, really is a dream come true. And yeah,
no,
he made.
You need guys like that.
Sorry, go ahead. You broke up.
I'm sorry. You need guys like that every year to make sure to keep the program going, to keep the cornerstones of what needs to happen. And you're seeing it, man. It's good. It's great. Guys like that stepping up. New guys coming in and figuring it all out. And everyone should be happy. I've seen some of the people compare it to other teams, and it's like, let these kids be these kids, man. Let them play. Let them compare. They're carving out their own niche, and it's 2025. It's their years. So, and they're doing it. So let's get these 2 wins and be super excited, and we get to talk about them in the next couple of years, right? Or
I guess
they keep it rolling.
I guess the closest thing we have to a star on this defense, you don't have one. You just have a bunch of solid football players. But Jamarly Riddle, what a season he's had. But along those lines, Robert was in saying, interesting that Blake Harrell mentioned Steve Shankweiler's team talk about how everyone's equal on the pirate ship, and known for being democratic team. No doubt, Robert, that goes hand in hand with what I was saying. Not only about in this case the defense.
You watch the defense, and it seems like every week someone new is, it's not someone new, but each one of the kids are stepping up and playing as a unit, and you could see it week after week, and it's so fun to watch. So, there's a few studs there, but I think the whole team itself, it goes back to Bubba when we had this conversation in August. We were talking about, scoring 35, 37, 42 points so we can get wins. And, these kids, they went to work, man, and it's great to see, and it's fun to watch. So, you could see it from the defensive line, the linebackers, to the DBs, and everyone involved, and it's really fun. It's neat to watch.
It certainly has been. Pirate fans, ECU is a 3.5 favorite going to San Antonio, and folks expecting that to be probably a 31-28, somewhere in that ballpark, 34-31 type game. But if you haven't checked out our YouTube, as far as some of our other content outside of live shows, we have the Indoor Performance Center. You can see it's really beginning to take shape like an indoor facility. So go and check that out if you have not. We also will have sights and sounds from Saturday night if you were unable to be there for that Memphis game, or even if you were and would like to go back and relive that. But check out some of our recent shows. We caught up with Shane Carden, ECU quarterback to 2014. Also Justin Hardy, Dwayne Harris, Dick Carrata from the Clarence Stasevich and Mike McGee years. But some excellent conversations there, evergreen content, as they say, and definitely encourage you to check out those. And last, but certainly not least, we appreciate the support of East Carolina great EB Kevin Walker from the early 80s. Kevin, a loyal supporter of the show. Definitely go and check out his work with custom homes. If you're interested in building a home, give him a call, especially if you're located in the Piedmont Triad region of our state. There in Winston-Salem, Greensboro, Burlington. He is located in Greensboro, but let the ECU great build your dream home today. 336-688-8461. Again, 336-688-8461 for Kevin Walker, also known as KK with L&K Custom Homes. But that will do it for this edition of the show. For Carolina linebacker Mark Libiano from the mid. I'm Bob Rosenbaum. You've been Beards out on our Memphis recap. We'll talk to you soon as we preview ECU UTSA. Until then, as always, go Pirates.
Go Pirates.
Painted purple all night long in Eastern North Carolina.